Hey everyone, I've picked out two incredible stories from r/EntitledParents for you today. First we have Entitled Woman shouts at me after having a seizure in work. And then Entitled Parents complain about our electric fence, they wind up admitting their kids are the neighborhood thieves. And just before we get into these stories today, I just wanted to remind you all that I'm doing an Amazon gift card giveaway. All you have to do to enter is be subscribed. Alright, let's jump straight into that first story. Entitled Karen shouts at me after having a seizure in work. Backstory: I've always been a medical disaster from the day I was born, literally with heart problems and severely underweight up to today, when I'm blind in one eye, have a speaking disability, and have recently been told that I have a high chance of being diagnosed with epilepsy from a severe head injury I had 4 years ago. I was referred to a specialist a few weeks ago, but he didn't do anything, so currently working my way through the medical system to get it properly looked at, but haven't shown any signs or symptoms until recently in the form of partial seizures, which caused me to lose my balance, become extremely dizzy, feel very scared, see flashing lights, spasms in my leg, and doesn't allow me to respond to events happening around me properly. Chapter 1. The Meeting. So this took place in work not long after I had been told there's a high chance I have epilepsy. I had told one of my coworkers as a safeguard, just in case, but hadn't told any of the managers, as I didn't want it to put my job in jeopardy, and I didn't feel comfortable with them knowing at the time. My coworker and I were working, and she was checking up on me every hour or so to make sure I was alright, and I was trying to stay in a good mood. After about 2:30 in the afternoon, when the lunch rush had finished, work had quieted down, and we had a small stream of customers come in, including our entitled mother, who we will name Karen, as per usual. She came in with her husband and her 2 kids, a boy and a girl who were lovely people. As they enter, I greet them, and they go to order their food at the counter. No biggie. They get it and sit down, and all is good. Chapter 2. The Incident. Not long after they had sat down, Karen points at me from across the restaurant, trying to flag me down and wave me over. I comply and go over to attend them, asking what the problem is. Karen then goes on to say that she's missing several things from her order. As she's doing this, I get a feeling that something isn't right, and a couple seconds later, I realize that I'm about to have a seizure. I tell her I'll sort out the issue and quickly walk into the back to make sure no one sees. Once I get to the back, the symptoms kick in, and as I have predicted, I had a seizure. It was about 2 to 3 minutes, with a minute of recovery and giving myself time to readjust and get myself straight before walking back out to do my job. As soon as I walk back out, Karen comes stomping up to me, red-faced. "Where the hell have you been? Where is our food?" etc., etc., with a few insults thrown in for good measure. I apologize and tell her that I had some medical business to sort out. "Well, it isn't more important than the customer," she replied with that typical Karen tone. I, of course, not in the mood to put up with this woman, take her receipt to the counter without saying a word, and after looking at it, realize that all the food was handed to her and nothing was actually missing. I walk back over and explain that nothing was missing, but she cuts in. "First you skive for 10 minutes, then you lie to a customer, and now you tell me that I'm wrong? Worst customer service ever." "I'm sorry, ma'am, but I told you that I had some medical problems to sort out urgently." Karen starts swearing, bearing in mind she's in front of her kids. "You're probably just a little lazy that's too stupid for a real job." At this point, her husband cuts in. "Karen, leave the man alone. If he says he had something medical to sort out, then it's an urgent thing." He then turned to me. "I'm so sorry. May I ask what the medical problem was, if it's not too much?" Seeing the opportunity, I reply, "I was having a seizure." The husband then looks at me in surprise, and Karen's face has gone completely red. He's lying. If you did, you'd be in an ambulance." No ma'am, there are different types of seizures, and the ones I have last about 3 minutes and aren't as serious as a fit, so I can get back to work straight after." The husband replies, "I'm very sorry to hear that. I hope it gets better for you, and I'm sorry for all the trouble caused." "Thank you, sir. Enjoy your meal." I then walk away, Karen being talked to by her husband, who is pretty angry at her. Chapter 3. The Aftermath. About 20 minutes later, they were getting up to leave, making sure to clean up any mess that they had left, which was nice, and the husband came over to me while Karen got the kids ready. He said, "I'm very sorry about that. She's like that sometimes. I really hope things get better for you, as again, I'm sorry." I told him that it's perfectly fine, and he isn't the one who should be apologizing, but trying to get a Karen to say sorry is like trying to get blood from a stone. They left with Karen hanging her head in shame after what I can only imagine were some words from her husband. I just hope that she learns her lesson and she treats more people with respect from now on. Thankfully, the husband in that story was actually sensible and knew to talk to the Karen. This would have been a whole nother story if the husband and Karen were both entitled. Alright, we are just about at the halfway point of the video, so if you liked that story, comment down your favorite part in the comments below. And if you're not already, be sure to hit the subscribe button so you can have a chance at winning that Amazon gift card. Moving on now, we have entitled parents complain about our electric fence, and then they wind up admitting their kids are the neighborhood thieves. We had a couple hundred cars and other motor vehicles stored at any given time. The neighborhood kids, older teens, some were actually adults, like to break in and steal personal items left in the cars, wallets, radios, GPS units, etc. If they stole the radio out of the dash, they'd rip the dash apart, so we'd have to replace the radio and repair the dash. It would be a very expensive repair. We had a 6+ foot high fence topped with razor wire and an alarm. They'd find ways over it. Usually they'd throw a mattress on the razor wire and hop over using a car. To protect ourselves, we put up an electric fence inside our security fence, the one topped with the razor wire. The electric fence was 6 feet inside the outer fence. Neighborhood parents decided they were up in arms about our complete disregard for their little trophies. The local councilman and police lieutenant came to me asking what we could do to calm the neighbors. Mind you, the electric fence was installed with the blessing of the local government, fully permitted and licensed. I told the politician, he was the real mouthpiece, that we would not be disarming or removing the fence. He told me that neighbors were very concerned for their children. I asked him which neighbors were most vocal, and he told me. I looked at the lieutenant and told him that those were the kids to look into when there were burglaries and thefts in the area. The politician asked why. I told him the parents most worried about their kids were the ones that had kids they knew were climbing the other fence and stealing and vandalizing cars. Then I took them to show the fence. You would seriously think the councilman would have taken a closer look at the setup, but he only looked at the big yellow high voltage warning signs. When we got the storage facility, the lieutenant laughed. The councilman looked like he walked in on his wife in bed with his best friend. He was mad and surprised at the same time. They looked at the setup. The electric fence was 2 full steps inside the property. There was no way to accidentally contact it from the sidewalk. The only way to get to it would be to climb the outer security fence. The kids weren't allowed in there ever, under any circumstances. It didn't take long for the councilman to learn he had been played by the neighbors. The lieutenant was fairly entertained. He actually laughed, then councilman said something politically correct and left. I looked at the lieutenant and we talked about the families that were really upset about the fence. They outed themselves as the suspects in a number of crimes. One of the older kids would shoot someone about 2 years later. He would actually be caught on a stolen ATV from our other location. The lieutenant chuckled and said, "Now I have to figure out what to say to the parents of these crooks." I said to tell him, "I want to know if they prefer their delinquents regular or extra crispy." That's a pretty funny ending to that story, and justice has been served in that town. You guys probably know the drill by now, but I haven't met my entertainment quota for this video, so we have one more bonus story for you. This story is short and sweet. We have I manage my son's finances. I work in HR and had a call this week. It went as follows. Me, says opening. Entitled mother, interrupts me mid-opening. My son didn't get paid correctly. What needs to be done to have these hours paid? Me, well, I'm sorry to hear that. Is your son around so that I can get verbal consent to speak to you on his behalf? Entitled mother, you don't need his consent. I am his mother. I manage his finances and handle his money and his paycheck. This week is short. He's missing hours. Me, I understand. Unfortunately, I am unable to discuss an employee's pay information without the employee being on the line. Entitled mother, what else do you need? I gave you his employee ID, verified his birthday and address. I am telling you I handle his information and I want to know why he isn't paid correctly. Me, I wouldn't be able to provide you with this information, ma'am. I would need to speak to your son for this. I understand you verified his account information, but you are not the employee. Entitled mother, you need to get me to someone that will give me this information because he's not here right now and I need this now. Let me speak to your supervisor. Me, I can transfer you to my supervisor, no problem, but they will not be able to give you the information you need because as I stated earlier, you are not the employee. She disconnected the call after this. By the way, the guy was 35 years old. Edit, the mother and son have called many times before, and they always escalate because we require consent. The son knows that the mom does this. It's cases like this that just leave me so frustrated, like they just don't understand what needs to be done. If the mom really wants to get her son's finances sorted out, she just needs to get him on the line. How hard is that to understand? Alright, we're finally at the end of the video. I really hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, like the video, that shows me that you did, and leave a comment of your favorite story from this video. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Amazon gift card, be subscribed. Thanks for watching, I will see you in the next one.